I would like to sort of have some very simple definitions at the very beginning. That by traditional journalism, I mean radio, newspapers, television, and the news agencies. And by social media, I am referring to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of which are American. And now we have a new player in the block called TikTok, which is the only Chinese social media presence. In addition, we have the Google and Yahoo news publishers that uses algorithms and picks up news really from the traditional media, but uses it for their own purposes. So the question is that what is social media and why is it so relevant? It started off as a benign platform of bringing people together, mostly of interacting. It's a social network, as the social media says, and it was basically bringing together like-minded people, people of various cultural taste or political affiliations, or of various professional groups, but basically interacting within that group. But today it has ended up truly encompassing the whole world as we have never seen it before. Never before in our civilization did one institution have the capacity to reach billions of people on a daily basis almost simultaneously. This enormous gathering of power is something totally new for our civilization. But why has it become so popular? We must understand the strength of social media. Why has it caught up so much and in such a short time? In my view, the fundamental strength of social media is that it has democratized the space for discussion. Now, it has not only made news flow more if you like, regular and on time, but it has made views flow also absolutely instantaneous. Now, this is very important. The traditional media was, if you like, a supply side institution, or in other words, what the institution, what the organization thought they covered as an event, and as an editorial, they projected what they thought was of national interest. But the interactive process of what the readers are thinking, what the people who are at the end of the information flow process are thinking, was never there. I mean, if you remember your olden days, that you could write a letter to the editor, and that may or may not have got published at all. You'd write a letter to the radio station or your TV station, and millions of letters, out of which few would get, if you like, broadcast. Social media has totally transformed it. Now, each and every individual, wherever, in whichever part of the world they exist, they are able to express their view. And that view gets carried over to millions and millions of people if they are in the right social platform. Now, this is something absolutely new and, if you like, very attractive. Who doesn't want to be able to speak to power, speak to others, speak globally just by being an ordinary citizen? You don't have to be either politically powerful or socially important or even somebody in a leadership position to speak. Now, this to me is social media's biggest strength. It has connected millions of people together to share views. But importantly, it has also provided a platform for dissent. Now, you can see in your own country, as I see in Bangladesh, that sometimes when a government makes a policy, instantaneously there are reactions in the social media, either supporting it or opposing it or suggesting reforms in it. Now, this is absolutely a brilliant process of, if you like, democracy, in which an idea, a government's policy or a particular plan is pronounced in the public domain, and immediately from the public side, there are reactions. Now, this to me, the whole process of communication has been democratized, which traditional media was never able to do, both in terms of volume, in terms of reach, and in terms of the speed which with it communicates. But in 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 addition to this strength, you also have a huge weakness in the social media. The fundamental weakness being what is fundamentally its strength, its ability to, if you like, transmit opinion. Now, this opinion are sometimes very prejudicial. These opinions are not fact based. What sometimes is passed off as an information is basically a misinformation. So, this again, just as it is on the positive side, on the negative side, its ability to, if you like, propagate hate speech, as we call it, to disinform the masses, to propagate something which is unverified, which has not been really gone. Nobody asks whether it's true or not, but it is out there, and millions of people are looking at it. This is its biggest curse, if you like. And it is of particular relevance to those of us in South Asia who suffer from our perennial, if you like, tragic legacy of communal conflict. This social platform is now becoming an instrument in the hands of those who want to, if you like, perpetuate hatred between communities and groups. Now, why is it a threat to the traditional media? Now, in the traditional media, we had developed a world of, at least we tried to develop a world of fact-based information. Now, while the social media, while traditional media tried to inform its audience, its public, social media tries to inflame its audience. In other words, it goes for sensational stories, unverified stories, whatever attracts the public attention, they go for it. Now, as you know, that in our real life, sometimes, a lie or a sensational information is far more, if you like, viral than a plain truth. This happens in our lives all the time. Now, so the traditional media built, if you like, a world which was full of verified information, curated information, information that had at least multiple sources to it, and also an editorial control, which determined that sometimes some inflammatory information, which would cause tension in the society, was not published, was, if you like, censored in a sense. And again, this is a particular experience of South Asia, where a news about a communal conflict in a certain small area was not published in the mainstream media, fearing that it might spread the news, spread the similar violence in other places. So this editorial control and this verified information structure is now totally, in a sense, dismantled by social media. And this is where I would like to say that the traditional media feels is being threatened, and not only as an institution, but also as a set of values. That information that is only valid and verified to be true is to be distributed. Prejudice will not be distributed. Unverified information will not be distributed. This was the pattern of the traditional media, and it served the society well. But as I said, the social media, on the other hand, democratizes the whole process. And like one of the weaknesses of democracy is that everybody gets to participate, including the misinformed, including the biased person, including the prejudiced person, and including the motivated person who actually wants social unrest. Now, here I would like to refer to something which we all know, but perhaps we do not remember it that often. That constitution of every democratic country protects two institutions, or if you like, two professions through a article of the constitution. And these two institutions are, one is the judiciary. Judiciary is given a special protection in the constitution of every democratic country, and we know the reason why. The other institution that is given protection is the press. Now we can enlarge it and call it the media. Now, why, we may ask, of all the professions in the country, the engineers, the doctors, the lawyers, the plethora of other professions, why has the founders of each of our countries, the writers of our constitution, why did they think that it was necessary, it was wise to protect the press? Because experience showed that press served democracy. Press served to keep power in check. The press served to, if you like, promote public good vis-a-vis the private good. So this was the world that the Constitution accepted and protected. The world of verified information, world of public good versus private interest, the world of, of democratic values rather than of coterie values. Now, this institution, the Constitution protects. Now, suddenly comes the social media that dismantles this whole edifice of what information should constitute of. And they are also being protected by the same constitution, because freedom of speech, freedom of expression is protected in general, and the social media is a part of freedom of expression. But it doesn't have the quality control, if you like, or the credibility element as the traditional media has. So the issue of the traditional media, that's why it is so concerning that societies have found through their experience to protect the press, which is, in the bigger sense, the media in general, but the traditional media. Now, whether such protection should be extended to the social media is a question that we have not yet resolved. I, as a believer in democracy, believer in press, in freedom of expression, I believe that the freedom of social media should also be protected. But how to eliminate its danger and only keep its positive elements is something that we have not yet determined, and it's an ongoing debate. So, as I said, because social media spreads disinformation, it spreads prejudice, it spreads hatred, people in general are becoming wary of this freedom. So the point I'm making here is that the free press, the free media, actually depends on public goodwill for its survival. Because ultimately, if you know, every government, whatever its shade or color may be, they don't like the press. They don't like a free media. They would like to control it as much as they can through whatever mechanism. What makes us survive is public goodwill. So if a media institution is, if you like, it's gagged, or it is, or a journalist is punished, then public goodwill protects us. In other words, the government knows, every democratic government knows that harming or gagging the media is not something that public likes. However, because of the misuse of this freedom by the social media, there is a growing trend in the public that, look here, maybe some sort of a control is necessary. Now, again, the South Asian experience is very, very important. The recent communal violence that happened in Bangladesh was triggered by a Facebook Live, which showed, something that hurt the quote unquote hurt the sentiment of the majority. Now, that would never have happened if there was no Facebook Live. That would have been within the contained, it would have been within the few people who would have been there, and that could have been, easily settled. But the social media and this direct live transmission just took everything out of control. So in South Asia, particularly in South Asia, we have this absolutely acute and present danger of communal violence being fed by the social media, which brings us to the whole idea of some sort of a control. Otherwise, the consequences are unimaginable and um, undesirable. But the point I'm making here is that because of the misuse by the social media, there is a growing public opinion that maybe some sort of a control of the freedom of expression should be there. And this is a major concern for us, because if public is not fully behind the free press, then we are weakened to a great extent. Nothing prepared the traditional journalism for the onslaught that it was about to face from the social media. It came in like a tsunami, sweeping everything in its path. But unlike the tsunami waves, it did not recede, but stayed back permanently to change this scenario as we knew it. For example, Facebook has an active user of 2.85 billion. Just think of these figures. Facebook has active participation of 2.85 billion. Twitter has 290 million. Instagram, a photo video sharing network, has 1.4 billion users. YouTube, a video sharing platform with 2 billion users. And TikTok, as I said, the new boy in the block, a Chinese platform, has about 1 billion users. Now, this reach, in a sense, is magnificent if it is used to promote, education, if you like, or even ideas, exchange of ideas. But traditional media never had even an iota or even a fraction of this reach. Now, this is where the positive and the negative, as I said, comes into play. Traditional media can never have such a reach. Social media already has such a reach. So what do we do with it? How do we move on with it? With such global reach, now this is a bit of a, if you like, a professional concern for the media, is that with such reach, advertisement has also shifted to the social media. And the traditional media is being deprived of advertisement, which actually leads to our capacity to survive. Now, by the end of 2020, digital advertisement accounted for 52% of the global advertisement revenue. So, as you can see, it's a massive shift in advertisement support on which the traditional media depends. Now, but discussing the traditional media's own weaknesses and strengths, I would like to point out that over the years, and this is a strong belief that I hold, that over the years, traditional media, particularly newspapers and television, became over dependent on advertisement. Now, what began, if you like, in the beginning, what began as an institution to promote public good with a modicum of profit has transformed itself into a profit machine with a modicum of public good. This transformation has happened within, if you like, our watch, and this has greatly disillusioned the readers of newspapers and the viewers of television. The more and more advertisement dependent we have become, more and more advertisement proliferated, our newspapers have become, more and more our loyalty shifted from the readers to the advertisers. This is a very stark reality that we in the media are not always open to accept, but this is something I hold very strongly, being a publisher of a newspaper myself. So, how do we then move forward? Now, ideally speaking, the strength of the social media and the strength of traditional media, if we could combine it, is the ideal scenario. Social media with its reach, social media with its ability to interact, is something that traditional media would not have done, cannot do, and therefore a combination of both is the ideal solution. Here, I forgot to mention one thing, that the social media's ability to interact, the term we use is engagement. Now, something is published in a social media, there is instant public reaction, then you could also respond to the reaction, and then there is a further reaction. This engagement, if you like, this exchange, interactiveness, is something that traditional media could never provide. Now, television sometimes goes out with its camera and asks public for their views on this and that issue, but it is never interactive like the social media is. So, in addition to democratizing the space of the media, the social media also provides this engagement aspect, which the traditional media desperately fails to do. So, way forward would be, I would say, that traditional media must become much more democratic institution, meaning that our habit of being editorially driven will have to be, if you like, substantiated or added to with a view of readers' engagement. How do we take the readers more into consideration? This is a big challenge for newspapers, also a challenge for television. Now, we have to go there somehow. All of the traditional media now have our digital platforms. Now, digital platforms provides us with that opportunity. So the future, as I see it, will be as follows: that every traditional media house will, I'm talking about particularly newspapers, that they say a newspaper like the Daily Star, we will have our print edition and we'll have our digital edition. The digital edition will be far more interactive. It is far more, if you like, newsy. And the print edition will be far more view-based. So the print edition will be views paper, and its digital version will be the newspaper, in where we'll be able to accommodate all sorts of news. We'll be able to interact with all our readers, with our viewers. So this combination of the digital presence and the print presence is the ideal for the future. In conclusion, I would like to say that, like every innovation, social media also provides us with a magnificent opportunity and, of course, with some very serious threat. The opportunity is really to build a world where multiculturalism, multi-ethnicity, a plethora of views, as Mao Zedong would say, thousand flower blooms, we can really do it through social media. It can be truly a place where cultures, opinions, traditions, changing tastes and heritages can be exchanged. Nothing like this ever existed before. Through social media, cultural heritage, traditions, your own fashion design, if you like, all of this can have a a place to exchange and place to come together as we had never had before. So this opportunity is extremely, if you like, attractive and almost infectious. It's a dream-like thing to build a world which always we wanted, a build world of participation, world of multiplicity of cultures, of views. It can be done through social media. But the reality is has not taken us in that direction. Especially now that governments are getting involved in using the capacity of the social media to manipulate public opinion. Not only governments, intelligence agencies, big corporations are using the capacity that the social media now provides to manipulate public opinion. We have seen in the Cambridge Analytica example of Trump's election, of how social media, how algorithms were used to manipulate voters' preference. Now, this is a reality that's not going to go away. And with governments becoming more and more powerful, more and more, if you like, technologically savvy, I feel an imminent threat of public opinion being manipulated. And elections, which are really one of the, if you like, magnificent innovations of democracy, through which we elect public representatives on a term basis, through which we keep control over the executive branch of voters keep control over the executive branch. These are now facing real threats through governments and big corporations' ability to use the capacity of the social media to manipulate. This, to me, is the threat which we live with, and this is a real challenge to the traditional media.